one example that is being talked about a lot is the approach that Atlassian are taking. Now, Atlassian are an Australian-founded global collaboration software company. So if you're into platforms like Jira, and of course all of the other ones now have completely gone from my mind.
Was it Confluence, isn't it?
Confluence, and they've just bought Loom, who is like the video recording company. So they've just bought Loom, which I think is really, really interesting. But they very, very intentionally, right at the start of lockdown, so they're Australian based. Of course, Australia went into some really quite restrictive lockdown all the way through the pandemic. They created right from the very beginning a very intentional distributed work strategy that they call Team Anywhere. And they view it as a giant social experiment. And I really love that sense of we're just trying to work out the best way. So we're being very, very experimental and we're being very clear. And, we may change things, but for us, this is what we've decided. So they have very simple principles. So one is talent everywhere. So they want to be able to have access to recruit the best people globally. Work anywhere. How do you design a work life that works for you? And then reimagine teamwork. So how do they empower distributed teams? So those are their principles. Now, within those principles, each person can choose each day where they work from. So they have complete freedom to design work in the way that's right for them as an individual, that's right for the kind of work that they're doing. And then they also have this arrangement where up to 90 days a year, anybody can go and work in any global location where they have one of their offices. So there's like huge freedom, and that's about where you work. And then how you work, they default to asynchronous working. And I think we'll probably touch on synchronous and asynchronous. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts. If we're going to look at anything around optimizing working practices, the shift to more asynchronous working is a massive opportunity to unlock a different way of working. So they default to async all the time, which means people have got space for that deep work. That's really a really important element of the work that people are doing. We need time to do that deep thinking. And they also recognize that when they connect and how they connect, and they call it intentional togetherness, which I think is a wonderful phrase. And what that says is that they recognize there's massive benefits, and there are actually times in order to deliver particular business objectives that people need to physically come together. So they do a series of scheduled team gatherings. So they're planned so people know in advance when they're going to be, so you can schedule your work and life around them. But they are really important, like anchor points. And I think that's a really crucial piece of work for people when they're trying to get that balance between wanting to give people freedom to make choices about where am I going to work best to do my best work, but also that cohesiveness, that connection, that sense of bringing a sense of belonging together. And we know there's times when we need to physically come together, yes, to do certain work, but also to build relationships and to foster that sense of belonging. And so it's very, very intentional.